Hey everyone, Glenn Lenz here. Welcome back to the 12 Days of Plug and Plays here on Spider Plays. And we have a very special plug and play that I'm going to play for you tonight. I had a lot of fun with this one, and it was very nostalgic. What does this look like to you? Well, it's a Sega Genesis. To be more precise, this is the Sega Model 2 my dad bought me one Christmas. I remember that Christmas too, after going to my friend Derek's house every weekend and playing this thing, like games like Mortal Kombat 2 and 3, Earthworm Jim, Sonic the Hedgehog, all the classics, Vector Man, all those awesome games that I really loved playing over at his house, but didn't have the luxury of playing at my house. One Christmas, my dad bought it for me. He knew how much I wanted the fucking thing, and I got it with Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Mortal Kombat 3. And I slowly built up my game collection. Now, back when I was a kid, I loved this fucking thing. Back then, I would have gave both balls, my cock, a kidney, an eyeball, and my pinky finger just to have this fucking thing. But I'm glad I didn't give up my cock and balls, because then my son wouldn't be here to enjoy his games. You're probably all wondering, Glenn, why do you have this out? Obviously, this isn't a plug-and-play. It's a console. Way better than a plug-and-play. This is the reason, my friends. The Sega Genesis plug-and-play. Years ahead of the Genesis Mini that just came out. Right off the bat, it's an attractive little plug-and-play. It looks just like the Genesis Model 2. I really love this thing. It's very cute, very nostalgic looking. Now this honestly looks like my Model 2 Genesis went and fucked my Model 1 Genesis and got it knocked up and gave birth to this thing. The Model 1 Genesis is still pretty sexy. It's got a fat ass. I'd tap that. Now, just like every other plug-and-play video, we gotta look at what this thing is, the quality of it, the presentation of it, first impressions. First impression right out of the box, it's nice. It feels quality. It feels like the same plastic used on the Genesis Model 2. Everything about it. It's only got one power button, and that's really all you need. You can put 4 AA batteries in this, but you have the option to use an AC adapter on it too, which is really nice. Now aside from that, the controller. The controller is fucking great. I love this thing. Compare it with a standard controller from the Sega Genesis. They feel identical. Like there's almost no difference between them. Honestly, I wish that if Radica made their own controllers, I wish I could have had an official Radica controller for my Sega Genesis, because they made a quality Genesis 3-button controller. I really love playing with this thing. I'm not even fucking joking. The buttons are solid. They're responsive. The plastic feels like very quality. I'm very, very happy with the presentation of this, but a plug-and-play is only as good as its games. Which means this thing's gonna be fucking awesome, because there's Genesis games on it. Let's take a look. Well, much like every plug-and-play, this one is one little console that comes with a collection of games. Game number 1, and it's a game that everyone would expect to be on this console. It'd be a fucking crime not to have Sonic on this console. Sonic the Hedgehog, that extremely recognizable Sega mascot on a mission to defeat Dr. Robotnik and rescue his animal friends from becoming robot slaves. To this day, this game is still lots of fun. This game plays pretty close to the actual cartridge of Sonic the Hedgehog. And after all this time, it's still a game that I get lost in. I was trying to record footage for this whole video, and I just kept wanting to play Sonic. The first Sonic the Hedgehog game still remains the hardest out of the 3 that are on the Sega Genesis console. There's more levels and you don't get the advantage of the spin dash. Great first game to start out with. Golden Axe, that classic medieval beat-em-up. This was an arcade game too. There's not a whole lot to say about the game. It's just, you know, an arcade-style beat-em-up. When you attack people, there's only like 2 frames of animation and stuff. You get to ride beasts around, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's a bit limited compared to other beat-em-ups that came after, but it's still a fun game to play, and for some reason, I just had too much fun playing this game. I really don't know why. I just did. Kid Chameleon. Now this is a game I never really played much as a kid, but I heard a lot about it. It was always on commercials or advertisements in my comic books. It's a story of Casey, who must save his friends in a virtual reality game, who gets different suits with different abilities to beat the game. The gameplay is almost like Super Mario Brothers to an extent, but it's a little more advanced because the suits all do different things to help you progress levels. The enemies feel a bit generic. It's still considered a classic amongst a lot of fans of the Sega Genesis, so there you go. Altered Beast. I love fucking Altered Beast. Yeah, maybe maybe by today's standards, it's not like the best beat-em-up game. It's still an arcade classic. I had a lot of memories, a lot of good memories playing Altered Beast. Around 2012, when I moved into my last place the first time, I had a lot of nights where I stayed up, got drunk, and played Altered Beast quite a bit. Never really made it that far because this game is still a big bitch. It's the extremely classic and nostalgic Sega arcade beat-em-up, where you're in ancient Greece on a quest to save Zeus's daughter, Athena. I like the graphics, I like the sound, I like the power-up abilities. It's cool and he's just like, power you up. Changing into monsters was always awesome and epic. It's one of those games where it's not that great or even that wonderful or memorable, but to me it has a special place in my heart and I still enjoy playing it. And to me, this one's a waste of a game on here. They put Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine on this thing. I guess he had to put something like that on here. I would have rather had columns on here, but that's just me. It's a Dr. Mario Tetris clone. I never really liked the game that much, but it's here, so whatever. Now this one, I have to admit, I've never really played and I never even heard of until I saw this console. Then I had to go back and do some research on it. It's a strangely addictive arcade-style game that came out the month and year I was born, May of '84, where you're finding a flicky bird on a mission to save as many birds called chirps as you can and avoid the cats to get them to the exit. The first time I even heard of flicky birds was in Sonic 3D Blast, and oddly enough, they'd used this style of collect the defenseless birds and escort them to safety mechanic for Sonic 3D Blast later on. I had no idea that it was actually an arcade game before they actually added the shit to Sonic 3D Blast. It's just really weird. Well, what's the verdict on this one? The controls, the gameplay, the audio? Fucking nailed it. The emulation here is near perfect, and this thing came out before those awful at-game Sega Genesis clones that were just complete fucking garbage, which is also pretty pathetic too, if you ask me. Now the thing is, it's still limited, it's still a plug-and-play, but it's a damn good plug-and-play. It was a damn good attempt at giving us something of a novelty, something that made us look back at the Sega Genesis. I like this. I like it a lot, actually. It's attractive. It's as quality as a plug-and-play can get. And it took me back to that Christmas I got my Sega Genesis. I plan on dumping all these shitty plug-and-plays off somewhere, releasing them back into the wild so they can pursue a life beyond just living with me at my apartment. Well, to be fair, they'll probably all end up in landfills. But this Sega Genesis one, I think I'm gonna hold on to. That and the Namco and the Atari 2600 one. They all look attractive, they all got decent games on them. And as far as plug-and-plays go, they're not bad. Still not worth the money, but not bad. Well, there it is. I love this fucking thing. I had a lot of fun playing it. I played it longer than I should have. It kind of halted my progress on making these videos because I just got lost in each one of the games I was playing. Even Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, I found new love for that game, even though I hated it when I was a kid. This was almost the right time to talk about this too. Sega's making like a small comeback. In 2020, Sonic the Hedgehog is finally getting his own live-action movie. There's a big debacle going on about how he looked. He looked like shit. He did look terrifying. The company went back, redesigned him, and made him look more like the video game version of him, which everybody loved, and which I appreciate. A lot of people appreciated it. I can't wait to see the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. I'm more excited about that than fucking Star Wars. I actually don't give a shit about Star Wars anymore. That's a whole nother discussion. I mentioned that in the Star Wars Revenge of the Sith plug-and-play video. Fuck Disney and Star Wars. And of course, this past year saw the release of the Genesis Mini Classic, which was inspired by the NES Mini Classic. Kind of a plug-and-play in their own right. Of course, the Genesis Mini Classic is a lot better, because it's got a lot more games on it. It's an official Sega-released product. But this was like a precursor to that. This is when plug-and-play started getting a little bit better. Of course, at the end of the day, it's still a plug-and-play, but a very damn fucking good plug-and-play. And I would play it again just because I love the way this fucking controller feels. Yeah, interesting side story about this thing. I used to have one of these. This isn't the original one that I had. The Christmas after my dad bought me the Model 2 Genesis, my birthday came later in May. And I think one of my aunts bought me one of these, and I played it, and I'm like, I have all these games. It was kind of pointless to buy me this, but I still enjoyed playing it. But the thing is, I already had a Genesis, so this was the first thing to go. And a number of years later, just one ended up in my possession in a box of shit. It's just really weird and ironic, but I'm happy I got it back, because this is going to be one of the plug-and-plays that I actually keep. There's not going to be many at the end of this big plug-and-play purge that I plan to have, but this is staying. Because I love Sega. Genesis was one of my all-time favorite consoles. It always takes me back to when I was a kid. All those memories I had with my best friend Derek, and when I got this thing for Christmas. Yeah, Sega was a great fucking console. It gave Nintendo a run for their money for a while before they went under. I'm very satisfied with this. I really didn't have any shit to talk about it. But it's still plug and play. Was it worth $20? No. I'm not going to say any plug and play was worth $20 on this whole list of games. But I don't even think they released this for $20 when it was released. I remember seeing this for like $16 to $18. So it was right around that range. It was worth it. This is one plug and play that's worth it. So I will say that. But you guys, we're going to move on to the very last video. I'm sad to see these videos be done. But we got to move on. And I'm happy you've been watching this far, if you have been watching this far. But we're going to move on to something very, very special in the next video. So catch me in the next video. I will see you guys next time.